Hi, my name is Sam Johnson and I am a voice teacher. Today I will be reacting to and analyzing Demi Lovato performing Skin of My Teeth on The Tonight Show starring Jimmy Fallon. If you are interested in signing up for voice lessons, go to vocalease.net, which is linked in the description. Oh, metal set.
Demi leaves rehab again. When is this gonna end? Sounds like the voice in my head. I can't believe I'm not dead. I'm alive by the skin of my teeth. I survived, but it got harder to breathe. Asking why doesn't make it easier. Go easier on me.
Okay, they're in top form right now. Bottom of their voice right now, it's not super bright, but then as soon as they start going up to like that B area and even the D for easier, everything gets really quite bright. Where I think a lot of times people, as they go higher, like they brighten it, but in a way that ends up pulling chest voice up. And what they're doing is not that. It just sounds like which I feel it a lot with just a little bit of a tongue motion. But at the bottom of their voice, they're not really emphasizing that kind of brightness. And so you do hear, it's not like two totally separate voices, but definitely at the bottom, there's this different timbre that sounds a little bit more spoken, a little bit more dark. I don't know.
God help me, I just wanna be free. But I can't 'cause it's a disease. I'm alive by the skin of my The reaper knocks on my door 'cause I'm addicted to more.
I mean, that had a little bit of it, 'cause I'm addicted versus 'cause I'm addicted. That's why when a lot of people say, if you can sing classical music, you can sing everything, I say, no, that's maybe not true. I do think that classical technique can give you a really nice foundation. A lot of the material that you learn when you're singing classical music is just so challenging that when you go sing anything else comparatively, it is less challenging to learn, but it's not the exact same. There's a lot in common, absolutely, and if you learn how to sing well, you learn your instrument, you can make those adjustments quite simply, but you still need to learn how to make those adjustments. And I have never been in a classical lesson that has asked for these kinds of sounds. Is it very far away from them, from the sounds that you might learn in a classical lesson? Again, like it's tongue placement, it's not asking for as much projection, because most of the time when you're singing pop rock stuff like this, you have a microphone. So there's less of that, but just the woofiness that I find a lot of classical people ask for, I am not hearing any of that in Demi Lovato's voice.
I'm alive by the skin of my teeth. I survive, but it
Survive.
got harder to breathe. Asking why
Why?
doesn't make it easier. Go easier on me.
Nay.
God help me, I just wanna be free. But I can't 'cause it's a disease. I'm alive by the skin of I'm just trying.
So with that one, they breathed in on the I'm, and it got a little bit darker. So just to start tuning your ears into what I mean when I say darker versus brighter, I'm versus I'm. That's still pretty dark, but it's also not all the way to I'm. All that I'm really changing with that is the tongue. I'm. But I did think it was really interesting that on the inhale, they had all of that space already. So it wasn't like they started singing the line and then suddenly had to change everything. They just had the space and then trusted the space and made the sound. And I think that's one of my favorite kind of axioms is if a vowel feels good when you're not making sound, when you actually start making sound, it'll probably work. But if you're making a vowel that feels terrible before you even start making sound through it, before you start singing through it, it's going to feel awful as soon as you start. So that moment to me is kind of just checking, does this feel good already? And then they judge yes, and then sing through it.
To keep my head above water, I'm your sun and I'm your I'm
Mother.
your father.
Father.
I'm just a product of. I'm just trying to keep my head above water. I'm your son and I'm your daughter. I'm your mother. I'm alive.
That's really good singing. I mean, although the I'm not is up around the E, it's on the E5. So when I say 5, if you're not familiar with notation like that, C4, middle C, is the C in the middle of a piano, and then everything from that up to the B is considered the 4th octave, and then there's this next C, and then everything up till that next B is 5, and then C6, the really high C6 in treble voices is C6. That's the high C. So what they did is they started on this E5, which is right around where most treble voices like theirs will have this sort of turnover. It's another bridge. So most people will just notice some sort of change in sensation. And the thing that seems to help most people when they get into that area is opening your mouth, which they do really, really well. But it's also like, because they're preparing everything so well, like everything leading up to that C5 is already, again, balanced. It sounds like the same voice that they have up on the E. There's not a huge shift that they need to do when they get up there, versus what I think a lot of us do is we'll try to hold on to one sensation that might work pretty well for a certain part of our voice, and then we'll just like approach it the exact same way, higher and higher and higher, and then suddenly we have to make a really massive shift. That's not what Demi did. Like, they just were approaching it really well, and then that E was a natural extension of how they were already approaching it. So I argue that the approach is the more important thing to focus on, rather than the actual technique and isolation of how someone sings one high note. It's usually how they approach is going to give a much better indicator of if it's good technique and good vocal health and sustainable. But anyway, like, that vowel shaping that they used was just ah. It wasn't ah, it wasn't oh, it wasn't it was ah. Found a lot of space. I think that was really essential to set up the F sharp on that really high ah. A little high for me today, but that space really seems to help Demi. There it is again. F sharps. Oh, geez. Okay, so like that's really good singing. I find that in pop music right now, there aren't a lot of just like singers. Demi Lovato is a singer. Just like, geez, this is very, very nice. Very sustainable work. With one of those last words, it was the may. They kind of changed everything to instead of me, where we've already heard they're very comfortable with their E vowel. Like a lot of those F sharp G area, like it was on an E vowel. So it proves they know how to sing an E in a balanced way that feels really good in their voice. And so the shift into the may was actually to make it sound a little bit yellier, versus the E, which makes everything sound a little mixier, using the language that kind of works for me. If they were approaching those high notes with that A kind of broader sound quality, it would probably not work as well when they get up into that E through G area, which is right on that third bridge. That is very, very good. Really, really great singing. Just fantastic, excellent singing. An analogy that kind of works for me is the idea of a mouse getting lost in a cathedral. I just always picture like a teeny little mouse with a teeny little squeaky sound getting lost in like the Notre Dame Notre Dame. And if that little squeak was happening in these massive acoustics, the acoustics do a lot to make it sound big. Even though the source of that is very small, it's perceptually like a teeny little sound, it can get amplified into big things using just acoustics. What Demi's doing is a very similar thing, where they're letting the sound source at their vocal folds be this like really small feeling where the vocal folds are allowed to stretch a lot, so there's not a ton of mass of the vocal folds coming together. There is still some vocal fold mass. It's not gotten all the way to just the vocal ligament. Because it stretches like that, it starts feeling smaller, and I think a lot of times people will try to encourage that small feeling by closing their mouth a lot. You can't do it. You got to have like a nice bigger opening when you get up into these high notes. Up through about the C sharp, a lot of people find that if they already are opening their mouth in that kind of gigantic way, that it doesn't serve them as well. And so I encourage a lot of narrowing usually up through that middle part. But when you get up into this E, F, F sharp, G area, if your mouth isn't open, I don't know what you're doing. Honestly, like, check it out. If you're able to get through it and you're like a pro singer and you're like, Sam, I never open my mouth through this D sharp, E, F area. I put everything in this place. And you're singing any sort of contemporary music, I would love to interview you and talk to you about your experiences, because you confuse me, whereas Demi does not confuse me. All I know about Demi, they sing well. That's all I need to know. Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, leave a comment below. Go check out my website, vocalese.net. Sign up for a lesson with me. Sign up for a lesson with Vanessa. Sign up for one with Mark. Compare all three of us, you know. Sign up for then another 3 lessons with all of us. Thank you.